6 years of work and nothing happens to you. And that's the important part of that sentence, the last two words. So in Oxfordshire, you can now ride up to any one of 6 camera-controlled traffic filters on your motorcycle. You can ride straight through, and the outcome will be absolutely nothing happens to you. There will be no need for a permit, there will be no charge, and there will be no fine. That's what success looks like for MAG. Welcome to Network for July of 2026. Now, back in 2020, Oxfordshire County Council released papers that suggested that motorcyclists were a danger to themselves. This was actually written into one of their documents, and we kicked up a fuss about it at the time. We succeeded in getting that rather aggressive wording removed and changed. But we didn't just leave it there. We went on and we campaigned a lot further to get motorcycling put genuinely into transport policy within Oxfordshire. So what we then managed to do was get them to put motorcycles as a separate category above other motorised vehicles in their transport hierarchy. The net impact of that, of course, is these traffic filters designed to stop cars getting into the city centre are not designed to stop motorcycles. The national guidance that guides how councils across England and Wales actually repair and maintain their road network is a document that runs to getting on for 300 pages, and it mentions motorcycles only 4 times in that entire document. Out of those 4 brief mentions, not one of them leads to a mandatory requirement for councils to actually consider the risk to motorcyclists specifically. So what we've got is an aim, but there is no requirement. And this, you could argue, is a pothole in the very guidelines. And that is why MAG responded to a consultation on an update to these guidelines, the Well-Managed Highways Infrastructure Code of Practice. MAG has lodged a formal response to the consultation. Now, most of you will be aware that in 2022, the government launched a consultation on whether or not to ban the sales of internal combustion engine motorcycles, or L category vehicles as they insist on calling them. Now, if you go back to that webpage on the government's website, now, 4 years later, it still says that they're considering the feedback. There is no decision yet. 4 years and no decision. Now, you could argue that our response to that consultation gave them plenty to think about, but the reality is that after 4 years, the motorcycle sector is left dangling, not knowing what the future is going to look like. That's just not acceptable. Now, you may well have seen in the news recently that there's reports that the government is backtracking a little bit on its plans for what's called the ZEV mandate, which is the process by which they're phasing out petrol cars. And the industry is pushing back on that very hard. And there's rumours afoot that the government is going to water down its position. So we've made the point quite clearly that not only do they need to water down the position on cars, they need to finally make a decision on motorcycles. And the only logical decision is to bin the ban. What they should do is follow Keir Starmer's lead, admit defeat, close the consultation, remove the threat, and let us move on. Operation Needle, which we cooperated with Merseyside Police with, or we helped to fund actually, through the MAG Foundation, was a great success again this year. Once again, 0 motorcycle thefts from the Liverpool city centre during the 2 weeks of the TT races. Now, this is a significant result because it shows that what's going on does actually work. Of course, we only now have the small matter of the other 50 weeks of the year and the rest of the country to worry about. But we're not giving up here. Now, as for the VED campaign, as you are aware, there were 26 MPs that signed the cross-party letter led by Bradley Thomas MP. There's still a steady stream of boilerplate responses coming back from the government as to why they're not going to change things. So at this point in time, the campaign is relatively stable. We have got no plans whatsoever to give up on it, but there's not a great deal happening there. But what we did at the same time is that we launched a campaign on the motorcycle mileage allowance. So what the government did was announce that that allowance for cars would be increasing to 55 pence per mile from, I think it's April next year. but they left motorcycle allowance static at 24p. That's the same rate it was when they first introduced this allowance back in 2002. So whilst cars are getting the extra benefit, motorcyclists who use their motorcycle for work do not get that benefit. That's not acceptable. So I obviously wrote to the Chancellor, and I'm pleased to say that since then we've had some interest from a Lord. So Bishop Mark Tanner, who sits in the House of Lords, has decided to put in a written parliamentary question to the Treasury to see if he can get a straight answer, and has committed to speaking directly himself to the Minister. So we'll keep an eye on that and let you know what the outcome is. Now, Welsh road safety, we've been putting in an awful lot of effort in that area. Well over 6 months ago, I got involved with the Vision Zero Action Partnership, attending meeting for 2 subgroups within that, a total of 6 meetings across 6 months, probably totaling about 12 hours of screen time and sitting in online meetings. This has been extremely exciting, I can assure you. What they've been doing is trying to figure out what they call the SPIs, or the safety performance indicators, the things that they're actually going to measure to determine whether or not what they're doing safety-wise actually works in Wales. Now, what you have to remember is that in Wales, and this is Wales specifically, 33% of all fatalities are motorcyclists. Now, that's a staggering number. That's 1 in 3 fatalities on the roads in Wales is a motorcyclist. That is worse than the average for the UK nationally. But what this means is that even they are coming round to the fact that they cannot achieve Vision Zero, the vision of 0 deaths on the road, if they don't start addressing motorcycle safety. So this should be good news for us. Of course, it could be something with a sting in the tail, and we need to be mindful of what they're doing. And this is why I've been working so closely on this, is that we want to make sure that the outcomes are good for motorcyclists. This is about increasing safety. It is not about decreasing the ability to ride our motorcycles. The meetings to decide what these performance indicators are going to be have now come to a close, and so we're waiting for the final outcome. We will obviously report on that when it finally comes out, probably in the autumn sometime. So as I said at the start of this video, the outcomes of what MAG works on is very often nothing. But it is vitally important that riders understand that this is specifically nothing happens to them as riders. This work often goes unnoticed and uncelebrated, but it does go on, it does take time, and it does take effort. So please do support MAG in this work. If you're not already a member, please do join up. All the things that I've been mentioning and more can be found in the written version of Network. There'll be links to all these points that I've been raising throughout the video in the description. So please do keep writing to your MPs, writing to your councillors, writing to your local authority, to your local mayor, whoever it may be. Keep the noise, keep it going. It may well look like nothing's happening, but you might not realise just how good it is that nothing is happening.